What do you think most people get wrong about motivation?
They think it's a permanent fix. They think it's something that is a constant. They think that maybe once I get it, I'm going to hold on to it. And that's the thing about that I was telling you, that I always talk about. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is permanent. And a lot of times you have to learn to perform without motivation. You have to learn to perform without purpose. You have to learn to perform a lot of different things. And that's what people think. They think I need to have this motivation to work out, to study, to be better. So if they don't have it, they just don't fucking do it. And that's where you fail. You have to learn to train your mind well beyond motivation. If you have motivation, that's great. That's some kindling to the fire. All it takes is a little bit of fucking spark, you can burn the whole forest up. But motivation, you have to learn to exist without it. You have to be your best self when you're least motivated. And that's the tricky part about all that shit. Motivation is just a word. You have to have these different things in your mind on where you want to go and know that motivation is not going to get me there. Because I'm not going to always be motivated.
Many dreams die while suffering. Think about it. We conjure our biggest dreams, our most audacious goals, when we feel safe and warm, even if you're struggling financially, emotionally, spiritually, or physically. Your grand plan to defy the odds probably came to you in a moment of comfort when you had time to evaluate where you are and how you got there. There is no space for big picture thinking when you're in the heat of battle. When all is calm, even temporarily, damn near anything can feel possible. So that's when you dream it up and map it all out. Then you begin, and unforeseen challenges knock you the fuck back. Whenever you're engaged in an intense struggle, the result of which will have a major impact on your life going forward, you will be challenged to your utmost. And these moments of truth within a larger quest can demand so much from you that you are bound to feel overmatched at times. When that happens, many people panic because they come to believe that they are imposters and their dream was actually a fantasy. In a blink, they go from being driven and focused to becoming convinced that they had no business even trying. So they quit right then, right there. While teetering on the edge, they fail to grasp that there is something they can do to jam that quitter's spiral, carrying them right down the drain. They can make the 1-second decision to think instead of react. During my second hell week, when I was in class 231, I was a driven mother. Bill Brown and I were the leaders of Boat Crew 2, and we had our own competition going to see who would be the baddest man in the whole class. But there was another guy in the mix who had captured my attention. Let's call him Mora. He was about our size, strong and fit, and whenever shit got hard on the beach or the grinder, he gravitated toward me. He was not in our boat crew, yet wanted to feed off of my energy because Bill Brown and I were performing at such a high level. We made hell look and feel not only manageable, but easy. On day 2 of Hell Week, Mora found me in the chow hall with a lost look on his face and fear in his eyes. I was busy filling my wet and sandy pockets with packets of peanut butter because I needed fuel to withstand the punishment I knew was coming. Even after consuming as many calories as I could, in 2 hours, I'd be hungry again and would eat damn near anything, even peanut butter gritty with sand and laced with pocket lint. Mora stared at me as if I were a creature from a different time, and I'd become wholly uncivilized after 2 days of surf torture and boat runs without a wink of sleep. I was now a caveman. Mora, on the other hand, looked like a traumatized modern man, and that was a clue that something was off. "Hey, Goggins," he whispered as his eyes darted around the room. "I don't want to be here anymore." The pressure cooker of Hell Week had temporarily unhinged him from his dream and his rational mind, and he looked like he was searching for an emergency exit. He was panic in human form, and I knew that because it was exactly how I felt when the first wave hit me in the very first hour of that same Hell Week. The Pacific Ocean was as cold as ever when that massive 6-foot wall of water picked me up, flipped me 3 times, and pounded me into the wet sand. It was as if the ocean itself was saying, "Get the fuck out of here." And I listened because my lungs were still burning from the bout of pneumonia that got me rolled into this class from class 230 just 2 months earlier. And because water was my kryptonite. There were 130 hours of Hell Week to come, and I knew that a good chunk of them would be spent in the cold ocean. That cocktail of suck hijacked my brain to send out signals far more troubling than ambivalence. I wasn't wondering if I had what it took or if I was prepared for the moment. The voice in my head was saying, "I don't really want to be a Navy SEAL." For more than a year, my quest to become a SEAL had been all-consuming. I'd never wanted anything as badly or committed so completely to the process. But when you are locked into a sufferfest, there are times when the conditions will become intolerable and a self-sabotaging impulse rooted in shock and fear will feel like clarity. I was a half step from voluntarily pulling the plug on a dream that had the power to change the course of my entire life. I glanced over at Bill Brown, resigned to the fact that he would soon stand alone as the baddest man in class 231. Then, from the knee-deep, swirling shallows, I scanned the horizon, where a destroyer was heading out to sea. The instructors had warned us that if we didn't make it through training, we'd be assigned to a ship like that, where we'd be stuck chipping paint for 6 months at a time. They made it sound like the most miserable deployment on Earth. But to me, in that instant, it sounded like heaven. Most SEAL instructors love quitters. When you tell them that you're too cold and you want out, they are more than happy to take you by the hand and lead you to the warmest shower of your life, because in their minds, it proves that they are better than you. Once you step into that shower, you get so warm within a minute that you forget what being cold even felt like, and then you realize that your warmth just cost you a piece of your soul, if not the whole damn thing, which can lead to a lifetime of regret. Time was of the essence. I could not crawl back onto the beach and take 10 minutes to get my mind right. I was in the eye of a psychological storm, and all around me, the water was still frothing and growling. Part of the problem was that the cold water had stolen the breath from my lungs. I was gasping and panic breathing. In order to think clearly, I needed oxygen. I took a deep breath and then another. And in that time, my possible future played out in my head. I watched myself stagger back to the beach and lay my helmet down. Within days, I was flushed right out of the military and sent back to Indiana, where I struggled through a series of low-level, low-impact jobs, which were the only ones I was qualified for. Minimum wage security guard, lifeguard at a local pool, and exterminator. That was true clarity. All my aspirations would be vaporized if I left surf torture behind, because I was a reservist. And if I snapped and quit, the Navy wouldn't even want me on one of their ships. I could not afford to lose my SEAL training, and that cold ocean were exactly where I belonged. So I needed to calm the down and meet the challenge head on. I took another breath as the next big wave swelled. It smashed the shit out of me too, but I managed to scramble toward the group and lock arms with my teammates. I was done showing weakness. I was finished with fear. I would stay in that water as long as it fucking took. When we got called back onto the sand 10 minutes later, the men in my boat crew were shivering and stiff. They were so cold, they didn't even want the edges of their soaked t-shirts to graze their skin. We needed to warm up fast. And the only way to do that during Hell Week is to go hard. I nodded to Bill, grabbed the front of the boat, and shouted out orders. As a unit, Boat Crew 2 started putting the fuck out like Hell Week was our natural habitat. Often, it's the shock that launches the spin out. For me, it was the snap of the cold water that triggered my fight or flight response, which comes with an adrenaline rush that spikes the heart and respiratory rates and puts your insecurities on blast. Your body and mind react that way because they want to protect you by telling you to get the fuck out. Fight or flight is exactly what Mora was experiencing in the chow hall. His fear and panic owned him. When I was teetering on the brink, I was able to physically calm myself down with a few deep breaths, and that helped me see through the adrenaline rush. My heart rate was still elevated, and panic continued to creep in, but I'd regained enough of my composure to make a conscious 1-second decision to stay in the fight. That took mental fortitude because the water hadn't suddenly warmed up. I was still cold and miserable and staring at 130 hours of hell. But I was able to see that the life I desired was on the other side of surf torture. I did not cave into emotion and quit. When people do that, they aren't even making an actual decision to quit. It's a default reaction due to stress. I get that it's difficult not to give in to all that emotion, acute pain, and discomfort. All you really want at that point is for it to end. You envision your bed at home and how sweet it feels to lie down with your wife or husband or partner. You know your mom will greet you with a forgiving hug and that your family will understand because they love you no matter what. You know for a fact that they will console and take care of you. And when you're hurting bad or scared shitless, all of that feels way too good to pass up. But you must remember that those images of home aren't actually rooted in love. They are a product of your fear disguised as love. Mora and I shared the same big dream. We'd both had our worlds rocked. I recovered by dominating Hell Week in a fashion that nobody had seen before. Mora's mind had already unraveled by the time I saw him in the chow hall. He wasn't thinking consciously at all. His emotions were controlling him instead of the other way around. I couldn't help him because by then he'd already lost the battle. I don't know when he officially quit. In Hell Week, you get so wrapped up in your crew, so engulfed in helping one another get to the other side that after several hours, you might look up and find half the class is bailed out. All I know is that at some point, he rang the bell and lived to regret it. Everything in life comes down to how we handle those crucial seconds. When psychological, physical, or emotional pressure redlines, your adrenal glands go haywire, and you are no longer in control. What separates a true savage from everybody else is the ability to regain control of their mind in that split second, despite the fact that all is still That's what people miss. Our lives aren't built on hours, days, weeks, months, or years. Hell Week is 130 hours, but it's not the hours that kill you, and it's not the pain, the exhaustion, or the cold. It is the 468,000 seconds that you must win. It only takes one of those motherfuckers, when it all becomes too much and you just can't take it anymore, to bring you down. I had to remain vigilant and manage my mind for every single one of those seconds to make it. Life, like Hell Week, is built on seconds that you must win repeatedly. I'm not saying you have to be hyper aware every second of your life, but if you are pursuing something that demands all you've got and means the world to you, that is often what it takes. When you are trying to lose weight or quit drinking or using drugs, your moment of weakness can be counted in seconds, and you'll need to be ready to win those seconds. You could be the medical student who has dreamed of being a doctor their entire life, only to fail a crucial class early on. Overwhelmed with panic, you may be tempted to march straight to the admissions office and withdraw. Maybe you are an aspiring lawyer with a job at a prestigious firm in your back pocket, yet failed the bar exam again, and in the heat of that moment, you abandon your career before it begins. All because you become convinced that you cannot walk back into that office after another humiliation or study for that bitch again, and put yourself right back on the chopping block. While school and professional exams are held in controlled environments, an F can spike the heart rate and trigger self-doubt as quickly as a 6-foot wall of cold water. Sometimes, that grade looms so large, especially in a young mind, that it's easy to feel like all eyes are on you and your failure, and that you've fallen so far behind that you'll never catch up. Moments of doubt are unavoidable when we take on any strenuous task. I've used the 1-second decision to regain my composure and win hundreds of small battles during ultra races, on the pull-up bar, and in stressful work situations. And the first step is to mentally take a knee. The best person in any combat scenario is the one who is composed enough to take a knee when the bullets are flying at them. They know they need to evaluate the situation and the landscape to find a way forward, and that it's impossible to make a conscious decision if they or their team is running around like fire ants. Taking a knee in battle is not as easy as it sounds, but it's the only way to give yourself time to breathe through the panic and rein in your spinning mind so you are able to operate. The battle hasn't stopped. Gunfire is still lighting up the night, and you don't have any time to waste. In that 1 second, you must take a breath and decide to bring the fight. When you are in the grip of life and in danger of losing your just think, it's time to take a knee. Get a couple of breaths and flash to your future. If you fold, what will happen next? What's your plan B? This is not some deep contemplation. There is no time to order a pizza and hash it out with your people. This must happen in seconds. It helps to prepare with productive self-talk before you drop into that sufferfest on your schedule. Remind yourself that nobody is great at every single aspect of any job, at least not right away. And no runner skates through a hard race unchallenged. No matter how bleak it looks or feels, you must stay rooted to your baseline. If you're in med school, your baseline is to graduate and become a doctor. In Coronado, my baseline was becoming a Navy SEAL. Many men buckled under the log during Hell Week, but log PT was easy for me. I had to remember that every time we were ordered back into my own personal torture chamber, the Pacific Ocean. It helps to remind yourself of what you're good at and where you excel, so when you have to engage in something that is hard for you, it doesn't become overwhelming. Tell yourself, I'm good here. I am great there. This sucks, but it will be over in 20 minutes. Maybe it's 20 miles or 20 days or 20 weeks, but it doesn't matter. Every experience on earth is finite. It will end someday, and that makes it doable. But the outcome hinges on those crucial seconds you must win. There are consequences to this. Quitting on a dream stays with you. It can color how you see yourself and the decisions you make going forward. Several men have taken their own lives after quitting SEAL training. Others marry the first person who comes around because they are so desperate for validation. Of course, the reverse is also true. If you can withstand the suffering, take a knee, and make a conscious 1-second decision in a critical juncture, you will learn perseverance and gain strength by winning the moment. You will know what it takes and how it feels to overcome all that loud doubt, and that will stay with you too. It will become a powerful skill you can use again and again to find success, no matter what scenario you're in or where life takes you. It's not always the wrong move to quit. Even in battle, sometimes we must retreat. You might not be ready for whatever it is you've taken on. Perhaps your preparation wasn't as thorough as you thought. Maybe other priorities in life need your attention. It happens, but make sure that it is a conscious decision you're making, not a reaction. Never quit when your pain and insecurity are at their peak. If you must retreat, quit when it's easy, not when it's hard. Control your thought process and get through the most difficult test first. That way, if you do bow out, you'll know it wasn't a reaction based on panic. Instead, you've made a conscious decision based on reason and had time to devise your plan B. More a quit on impulse. Usually when you do that, you don't get another chance. Many great opportunities in life only come around once, but sometimes opportunity does knock twice. 15 months after that morning in the chow hall, we crossed paths in Coronado again. It was my graduation day, and he was in our Huya class, the incoming trainees wearing the white shirts that signified day one, week one. Of all the 200 and some newbies, he was the only man there who wasn't smiling. He alone knew too much. After the ceremony, he approached, extended his hand, and congratulated me. "Remember," I said, "many dreams die while suffering, bro." He nodded once, then faded into the crowd. A month later, I heard he made it through Hell Week. 5 months after that, he graduated and became a Navy SEAL. I thought about Maura as I gazed into my pristine, polished mirror 22 years later while considering Babbitt's invitation to Leadville. I'd been living large for longer than I cared to admit. In this new life of mine, the water was never cold, and the 1-second decision was in danger of becoming a perishable skill. I didn't think I needed it anymore. I had access to all the finer things. In my house, it was always 72 degrees, and that feels good, especially when you believe you've earned it. Why put myself through a 10-week training camp or a 100-mile run in Colorado's thin air? I knew damn well how horrible that feels and what it takes. But I also knew that this right here was one of the most important 1-second decisions in my life. This wasn't a fight or flight moment. I wasn't overwhelmed by the fear of death. I wasn't on the brink of failure or humiliation, and my heart rate was beating slow and steady. This was a mature version of the unconscious impulse to quit. The one you don't see coming until it greets you at the gate when you think you finally arrived. See, I don't have any respect for people who live this Lux life 24/7. If I said no to Babbitt, I wouldn't be quitting on him. I would be quitting on myself. I would be making a fear-based choice to no longer be the very person who I became so proud of. It's all well and good to have success and reach a certain level, but I really don't give a fuck what you did yesterday. Maybe you finished Ultraman or graduated from Harvard. I do not care. Respect is earned every day by waking up early, challenging yourself with new dreams or digging up old nightmares, and embracing the suck like you have nothing and have never done a thing in your life. There are 86,400 seconds in a day. Losing just one of those seconds can change the outcome of your day and potentially your life.